She stood in a crowded auction yard, pregnant, widowed, and holding her very last dollar. Everyone laughed when she raised her hand to buy a wounded soldier no one wanted. But seconds later, he leaned close and whispered words that froze her blood and changed her destiny forever. What secret could possibly be worth more than a life? More than war, more than death itself? If you believe one small decision can rewrite fate, make sure you subscribe to Of Romance. In the Wild West, share this story with someone who loves powerful, true-to-heart stories, and comment below where you're watching from. Your support helps keep these unforgettable stories alive. Now take a deep breath, because from this moment on, nothing is what it seems. Let's start this story. The auction yard roared with noise, but one sentence sliced through the chaos like a blade. $1, the pregnant widow said, her voice shaking but clear. Laughter erupted around her as heads turned in disbelief. A wounded soldier, barely conscious, was being sold like scrap, and she, alone, dressed in black, carrying an unborn child, had just claimed him. No one knew that this single dollar would unlock a secret buried by war, blood, and fate. A secret that would change her life forever before the sun set again. Clara tightened her shawl as dust swirled around her boots. Her belly was heavy, her heart heavier. 6 months ago, she had been safe in her husband Samuel's arms. Then the letter came, stiff paper and colder words, telling her he died a hero. Since then, hunger and silence filled her days. The farm was failing, neighbors had their own troubles, and pity never fed an empty stomach. That morning, desperation had led her to the auction yard, a place she never imagined she would stand. The soldiers sat in a broken line near the platform, men who had given everything and returned with nothing. Some stared at the ground, others into nothing at all. Clara's eyes passed over them until they stopped on one man at the far end. He looked young, too young to be so damaged. His arm was badly wrapped, his uniform torn, his face pale but stubbornly alert. When their eyes met, something strange stirred inside her chest, a pull she didn't understand and couldn't ignore. The auctioneer barely bothered to raise his voice for the wounded soldier. No one wanted him. The price dropped again and again, each number an insult. Clara felt the crowd's indifference like a weight pressing her forward. She didn't plan, didn't calculate. Her mouth opened before fear could stop it. $1, the words echoed. The gavel slammed. Just like that, the soldier belonged to her, and the crowd erupted in mockery and disbelief. Up close, she could see how badly hurt he was. Sweat clung to his brow, his jaw clenched to hide the pain. He tried to stand when she approached and nearly collapsed. Without thinking, she reached out, steadying him. His body tensed, then relaxed as if surrendering to exhaustion. She introduced herself, simply, telling him he was coming home with her. He nodded, saying little, but his eyes never left her face. The wagon ride was slow and silent at first, broken only by the creak of wheels and distant wind. Clara offered him water, and when his fingers brushed hers, a strange familiarity sent a chill through her. He finally spoke, asking why she had bought him. She answered honestly, saying she couldn't leave him there and that she needed help. He looked away, whispering that he wasn't worth much. She told him the world was wrong about many things. Her farmhouse appeared small and tired against the open land. As she helped him, inside memories hit her hard. This was where Samuel had laughed, dreamed, promised a future. Laying the soldier on the bed felt like reopening. A wound, she thought, had scarred over. She cleaned his injuries carefully, noticing how he watched her, as if every movement mattered. The room filled with unspoken tension, thick and uneasy. When she finished, he asked her to sit. His voice trembled now, stripped of its earlier restraint. He said there was something she needed to know, something he should have said sooner. Clara felt her heart pound as she waited. When he whispered the truth that he was her husband's brother, the world seemed to freeze. The words hung between them, heavy and impossible to ignore. Her knees weakened as memories rushed back. Samuel's old stories, the brother who ran away, the faded photograph she once held. She asked his name, though she already knew the answer forming in her mind. Elias, he said. Tears streamed down her face as shock gave way to grief and awe. The war hadn't just taken Samuel. It had twisted their lives until this impossible reunion was the result. Elias confessed his shame, his guilt for leaving home and failing to protect his brother. He told her he recognized her instantly, but lacked the courage to speak. Especially seeing her alone and pregnant, Clara listened, torn between pain and compassion. After a long silence, she told him the war was to blame, not him. In that moment, something shifted, not erasing loss, but reshaping it into purpose. That night, as the wind rattled the windows, Clara lay awake, listening to Elias's uneven breathing from the next room. She realized the dollar she spent had bought more than labor or help. It had bought truth, family, and a fragile chance at survival. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. Her life, once shattered by loss, had just taken a turn no one could have predicted. And there was no turning back now, as if the land itself was careful not to disturb the fragile truth that now lived inside the house. Clara rose before sunrise, her body aching, her mind restless. For a moment she forgot everything. Then memory returned all at once. Samuel, the auction, the dollar, and the whispered words that had changed everything. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling a gentle movement, and breathed deeply. Whatever confusion she felt, life was still moving forward. Elias was already awake when she entered the main room, struggling to sit upright without using his injured arm. He stopped. When he saw her, uncertainty written across his face. Neither of them knew how to speak to the other, now that the truth was out. Clara broke the silence by setting a cup of coffee near him. Their fingers didn't touch this time, but the gesture itself carried meaning. Family, even broken and unexpected, still showed up. Days followed with a new rhythm. Elias healed slowly, but his determination was fierce. He refused to be treated like a burden, insisting on helping however he could. With one good arm, he repaired loose boards, guided the mule, and kept the firewood stacked. Clara watched him from the porch, often catching glimpses of Samuel in his expressions and movements. It hurt, but it also comforted her. Samuel was gone, but a part of him remained. At night they talked more freely. Elias told her everything he had never said out loud. How he and Samuel had fought before he left for the army. How pride had kept him from writing. How he learned of Samuel's death from another soldier on the battlefield. He carried that guilt like a second wound. Clara listened, sometimes crying, sometimes holding his good hand when words failed. In sharing their pain, it grew lighter. The baby came earlier than expected, during a violent storm that shook the house. Clara's pain was sharp and relentless, fear creeping in between each breath. Elias didn't hesitate. Despite his injury, he rode through the rain to fetch the midwife, returning soaked and shaking but determined. He stayed nearby through the long night, pacing, praying, reliving the battlefield in his mind until a cry finally cut through the storm. A son was born, small but strong, his lungs full of life. Clara wept as she held him, feeling both loss and love collide inside her chest. Elias stood at the foot of the bed, tears streaming freely, seeing his brother's eyes looking back at him through a newborn face. When Clara named the child Samuel Elias Harper, Elias turned away, overwhelmed, knowing this was both an honor and a promise. Seasons changed, and so did their lives. The farm slowly recovered. Neighbors, once distant, began to help again, drawn by quiet resilience rather than pity. Elias gained strength, though his arm never fully healed. He accepted it without bitterness, finding purpose in teaching young Samuel to walk, to speak, to laugh. He became a protector not out of obligation, but out of love. Clara found herself healing too. Not forgetting Samuel, never that, but learning to live alongside the pain rather than under it. She realized that the kindness she offered for $1 had returned to her multiplied. Not as wealth, not as romance, but as family and stability. The house no longer felt empty. It breathed again. Years later, people still talked about that auction day, about the widow who made a foolish choice, and the soldier no one wanted. They never understood that the true value of that moment couldn't be measured in money. It was measured in loyalty, forgiveness, and the quiet strength to choose compassion when the world expected nothing. On warm evenings, Clara would sit on the porch, watching Elias and Samuel work the land together, the past and future moving side by side. And in those moments, She knew the truth. War may destroy lives, but kindness rebuilds them. $1 had not bought a soldier. It had reunited a family, restored purpose, and proved that even in the darkest times, fate still listens to brave hearts.